Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the listening log update for May of 2021. We've got 10 records to talk about this month, a couple of requests I've had on the docket wrapped up, and one record in particular that I've been meaning to talk about for months. So let's go ahead and get going.
Well, I hear it lingers.
And the first record I checked out this month was the album Drunk Tank Pink by the English post-punk band Shame, a record that was came up in conversation a lot with my buddy John. He kept, throwing it out there like, "Hey, this record's pretty good. You should give it a spin sometime. You should really listen to this Drunk Tank Pink record, man. You should do that." And I eventually did. And easily, this is one of the best records I've heard this year so far. They do a great job at sort of fusing sort of an 80s post-punk influence with that post-punk revival scene that was happening in the 2000s. Because there's moments like March Day and Nigel Hitter where their vocalist kind of takes on this fusion of like David Byrne and Paul Banks, while the band is sort of playing a lot of these reverb-soaked riffs with this sort of sporadic style of delivery and these lyrics that have this sort of cyclical nature to them. I think the track Harsh Degrees' swirling guitar riff really lends itself to the intense subject matter delved within it as well. While juxtaposing that with some actually genuinely very intense moments, like on the Meltdown of Snow Day, or the faster paced tracks like Great Dog or Harsh Degrees' overall intense guitar and vocal delivery. There's a lot of dynamics in this project that I really enjoy, and I think the songwriting complements a lot of that, because there's tracks like Alphabet and Born in Luton and Nigel Hitter as well that sort of talk about being fed up with the monotony, the cyclicalness of life, seeking something fresh, seeking something new, and I really enjoy those moments. Born in London is easily my favorite track on here. I like how even amidst all of that, they also have moments where they sort of capture that desire for something different in a different fashion, like in Human for a Minute, where it talks about sort of removing yourself from that almost cog in the machine mindset and to bring it into a much more humanistic realm. I don't know, man. This record did a lot for me. I enjoy this record a hell of a lot. I think the production is top-notch. Like I said, it is sort of a fusion of what bands like the Talking Heads and bands like Block Party and Interpol were doing into this great contemporary soundscape.
And to throw it into an even different realm, the track Water in the Well almost has this Franz Ferdinand adjacent welcoming into that fusion as well. It's a melting pot of styles that I think just comes across beautifully.
6-1 sounds like something that could have been ripped from 2005 in the best way possible. And I feel like if you enjoy post-punk, or if you love that sort of style and sort of some of the songwriting that can stem from that, you'll enjoy Drunk Tank Pink. I think that it's a really tight, well-constructed record that has a lot of great shifts and dynamics, a sort of great propulsion, and again, some moments where it really breaks it down in a nice way. I don't know, man. This is an incredible record. I think that it's very much worth your time, and I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It's top-notch stuff, my dudes.
Cause they steady harassing. We seen dilemmas like Nelly and Kelly that ended the day.
There's kind of a joke with some of my friends that I'm a Cole hater, just because I don't think he's like one of the GOATs. But I don't think his last couple of releases have showcased his potential or greatness quite like his first couple of records did. I feel like For Your Eyes Only, for as solid as it was, he sounded tired or half asleep half the time, and KOD failed to live on its, or failed to follow up its potential as a concept in any meaningful way. But with that being said, the off-season is easily his tightest, best execution across a whole project in ages. I think 95 South might be his best opening cut on a record, from Cameron's sort of rant in the beginning to the hype-inducing meltdown, and Cole sounds, energized as hell on that track. Sure, some of the bars, that same Cole touch that I don't always love, that Luigi Brother Now line is weird as fuck. But it does what a good opening should, and I feel like lights the torch for the record in a way that it should have. I don't think it necessarily follows it up with the same energy that it set itself up for. While I like Amari, and I think it's one of the better low-key cuts Cole has done in a while, and his flow on there is just liquid smooth. I feel like it would have been better to lead that into My Life. My Life is easily my favorite track on this project. I like when Cole and 21 Savage work together. I feel like Cole's energy matches 21's sort of minimal 21 Savage style incredibly well. The beat on that track is incredible, and the hook is really good too. I also really like his intensity on tracks like Punch on the Clock, Pride is the Devil. I think Applying Pressure is a pretty solid track as well. I feel like his storytelling on tracks like Pride is the Devil and Interlude and Close are some of the best he's pulled together in a long, long time. You know, I feel like, again, that energy is there in a great way. And I feel like even when he gets low-key, like on Amari or Let Go My Hand, it comes across a lot better than any of the lower-key tracks on For Your Eyes Only or KOD may have had. You know, I feel like this is just easily his tightest, most concise record in a while that is consistent. You know, and I also like that the stuff that he's pulling together has a good melding of sort of what you may want to come to him for with some of the stuff that he was experimenting with on KOD, like more contemporary styles and flows. I think that it's easily a smooth listen. It's a really solid listen. You know, like I said, the sequencing is a little weird on here, and there's some tracks that I think are kind of wasted. You know, 100 Mil, for as great as that beat is, and how it kind of fits the imagery on the album cover, the track is just a bunch of hooks spun around each other that I don't think culminate to anything worthwhile. And while I think the grandiosity on Hunger on Hillside lends itself to the big scope that a closer should have, I feel like the track before it, Close, would have been an even better closer. You know, it's not quite as grand, but it has this nice fade out, it's this intense story, and I feel like it lends itself better to sort of a cap off, a bookend to a record of straight fire that something like the album cover and Cole's energy on here would represent. But all in all, this is still a much more solid project than KOD and For Your Eyes Only. And that's all I could have asked for. And I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. This is honestly Cole's best project in a while. YouTube mashupper Pluffaduff dropped a new record recently called Untitled Paint Project. And I got into this record through a source that may seem weird, the Guitar Hero scene on YouTube. Acai streamed charts for a lot of the songs on here, and I thought they were brilliant. They're mashups, and they are wild in how well they work together, but also the variety of mashups on here, both in goofiness and just in genuine genius. You know, it's very CC Orega-esque, it's post-CC Orega style, but it's a lot more harnessed than, like, some of the insanity that Neil does on his Mouth series. But, like, tracks like One and Getaway and Kids Can't feel like, again, sort of like, while heavily inspired by potentially stuff like the shitposty mashup scene is doing, transcend some of the mediocrity that could stem from that scene. You know, I like a decent amount of this project, you know. Going back to the opener One, the spinning of 21 Guns into this sort of counting style of shitposty mashup reminds me of Kids and Explosions in a very good way. You know, it's not quite as glitchy or abrasive of that, but the sentiment is still there at its core. The switch up of Kids Can't Feel from Numb's instrumental to Kids' instrumental to Numb's instrumental with the vocals of the songs sort of swapped over each other is great. A very CC Orega-esque. I like the fusion of Fly Away with Get Lucky. That's incredible. Crazy Fred is straight up there. It's shitpost gold, the Rollin' and Crazy Frog mashup. And I like Weezer. I think Weezer is the funniest thing that could have ever stemmed from those bands, in this current time, given they're going to be going on a colossal tour together. Those two bands together, Weezer and Green Day, are on people's minds. And so that's just a perfect storm of great timing and hilarious mashup work. You know, there's some mashups that I feel like lay into a trend or a style that may be a little played out at this point, like Mambalovania. It's not bad. I've seen 1,000 Megalovania mashups and remixes at this point. The song makes me feel nothing at this point. And I feel like some of the mashups, while kind of cool on initial listen, didn't give me the same feeling on revisits, like Smells Like Disco Fever. And Super Creep is hilarious, but again, it's not my favorite mashup on here. But a majority of this project is pretty good. One of the tracks on here that I think is really good that doesn't necessarily fit the record itself is Funk Will Change, and that was because it's supposed to be a part of a Siva Gunner event. While it has that Siva Gunner style, and it's sort of, you know, melding of worlds definitely feels in line with some of the melding of worlds on here, similarly to what Siva Gunner does on their channel. It sticks out a bit here. It's a great song, don't get me wrong. It just, again, sticks out on this project as a whole, partially because of its tone and its sound and its production. But either way, this is still an Aces mashup record. You know, talked about mashup records here on the channel, here and there. I've done a mashup record myself. I like mashup culture, and having this exposed to me was a great experience. And I feel like if you enjoy mashups, whether any of the artists that I mentioned in this, or just you like fun, goofy mashups, give this a spin, man. It's honestly, it's pretty good. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It's definitely worth your time. More of it than not. Now this was a surprise to me because, as you guys saw in my classic breakdown of their record El Oso, I like Soul Coughing a lot. And I wasn't expecting Mike Doherty to drop a new project with a pseudonym that's a callback to Soul Coughing. Because in the video on El Oso, I talked about how he must still have an attachment to some of the songs from that project, and I guess this was wrought out because he was intending to bring back Soul Coughing, which is fucking mind-blowing. Because who the fuck would have guessed that? Who the fuck would have guessed that Soul Coughing would have been coming back? But they didn't, because of the pandemic, I guess. The pandemic stopped Soul Coughing, so fuck you, 2020, retroactively. But out of the ashes of the failure to bring back Soul Coughing comes Ghost of Vroom. It's a two-piece project with Mike Doherty and Andrew Livingston, and this was an interesting experience for me, because I've only ever listened to Soul Coughing out of Mike Doherty's other musical adventures. I've never listened to anything else he's pulled together. And while there are elements that still tap into that sort of quirky, offbeat style that I like from Soul Coughing, like the opener More Bacon Than the Pan Can Handle, which is a remix or a rewrite, a reinterpretation of a Mike Doherty song itself, and tracks like 50,000 Bonus Miles, and I Hear the Axe Swingin', and They Came in the Name of Normal People, and Bad Credit, No Credit, that see sort of a modernization or an expansion on some of that quirkiness. There's some normal-ass alt-rock on here that I would have never have guessed Mike Doherty to pull together, just having been a Soul Coughing fan.
And I know that sounds weird given I reviewed Soul Coughing and there's some pretty tame shit on there, but even those tracks sound, except for Circles, sound a bit more out there compositionally than some of the normal sounding tracks that are on Ghost of Vroom.
You know, tracks like Revelator and parts of Memphis Woofer Rock and Miss You Like Crazy have this much more normal presentation that isn't necessarily bad, but definitely puts Mike Doherty in a place vocally and presentation-wise that I've never pegged him to and isn't holistically my thing. You know, this is not a bad record, by any stretch of the imagination. I like, again, some of that quirky songwriting. But even in some of those quirky songs, there's this vocal delay effect that Doherty uses that's kind of excessive and a little obnoxious the more that the tracks go on. But the songs themselves aren't bad, just everything around it has this sort of sheen across it that doesn't necessarily pop in the same way that those Soul Coughing records did. You know, again, far cry from awful, but this is certainly not what I was wanting it to be, having seen that this was a new project wrought from the ashes of Soul Coughing. If you like those Soul Coughing records and you want to hear Doherty sort of still writing that sort of esoteric, idiosyncratic style that's very intrinsically him, it comes across on here really well. I even like some of the hooks. I like the hooks on I Hear the Axe Swinging. I love that sort of vibe on the hook of 50,000 Bonus Miles. And that loop on More Bacon Than the Pan Can Handle still slaps. Like, I listened to the original after listening to this, and I like how they interpolated it into this version of the song. You know, there's a lot here that I enjoy, but it's certainly lesser. Like I've said, it's certainly lesser than I was expecting it to be, and that's fine. But I'm hoping that post this, we do see Soul Coughing come back. I hope that this sort of plants the seeds for Doherty to burgeon out more quirky, poetic, nuanced strangeness. Because this is a nice teaser, but it did leave me wanting more. And so I'm giving this record a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, it's very solid, but it's leaving me wanting a lot more from Mike Doherty. You know, Van Weezer as a concept really sounds weird on paper, but I was excited for the record last year because of the initial single, The End of the Game. I liked the guitar shredding in it. It felt very influenced by Van Halen, and while it felt like a fusion of Van Halen and some of Weezer's ideas, that's ultimately what the name Van Weezer would sort of lend itself to be, right? And while it was delayed, my hype sort of was stuck in this ether state. You know, I liked the song Hero, but not quite as much. And I didn't really follow the record throughout the rest of last year because I was swept up in a bunch of other stuff. But now that it's here, I will say, I feel like there's a handful of elements holding this record back. Not limited to, but also including the band themselves. You know, while I do think that this record's biggest flaw is that it leans heavier on Weezer than it does Van Halen, because the shredding in The End of the Game I really enjoyed, and it does crop up here and there, like on Hero and All the Good Ones, and Beginning of the End have really nice solo work, but on some of those tracks, the mixing puts that shredding in the back. You know, they sacrifice it so that the band can still stand tall, and that's ultimately upsetting, you know. And to be honest, while the shredding is neat, one of the other things that I like about Van Halen are the other components in the band, you know, the harmonizing and the choruses, the drum work is incredible, some bass lines in there that are really nice, and all of those other elements from Van Halen just kind of fall to the wayside. Like, yeah, the track I Need Some of That has some 80s style guitar production. It's not the same type of production that Van Halen were using in their heyday. And one of the other weird things I wasn't expecting on here was a track like Blue Dream, a carbon copy of Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. Kind of sticks out like a sore thumb for a handful of reasons. One, because it's like a carbon copy track, but then when you kind of realize what it is, at least I wondered, what the hell is this doing on a Van Halen tribute record? I know that you could argue it's a tribute to that whole era of like hard rock and metal, but I feel like the name itself evokes a certain style, and I just feel like the band didn't live up to that. Also, the songwriting on this record, some of it's fine, but some of it, and I know a lot of people have already kind of memed the one more hit line, but honestly, a lot of the writing, it doesn't dazzle me in the same way. Sure, some of the choruses are fine, and I dig, you know, the sentiment of a track like Precious Metal Girl, but She Needs Me tries to channel, like, 38 Special styled chorus work, but again, it doesn't feel like a Van Halen tribute record, man, and I don't know. There's a lot holding this record back to me personally. I would say I'm let down by this record. I liked OK Human more, which I was not expecting to say. It just feels like there's a lot of conflict going on, and I guess with a title like Van Weezer, that sounds like a recipe for conflict, and it shows. You know, maybe it's because Weezer's inspirations weren't all in the lane of Van Halen, and trying to recreate that was just harder for them than it may have sounded to them even initially, but I don't know. I think this record kind of evens out to an alright, because I do like the shredding, I do like some of the chorus work, and there are some songs on here, like the songs that I mentioned with the shredding, I like a majority of them. You know, I like Hero, I like End of the Game, obviously, I love Beginning of the End as well. There's just some really good tracks, and I dig the closer, Precious Metal Girl. You know, I think that it's a kind of a conflicting closer from the rest of the record, and I don't think many of these bands close with ballads, but, you know, again, it's Weezer doing Weezer. But yeah, I'm feeling like a 5 on this. You know, I wanted to like this more, I really did, but it just didn't even out to anything past mediocre because of its setbacks. Skin Show was the next record up for discussion. It was a request by Rockin' Movies with Tyler, another request from them. The album is from the band The Lion's Daughter, a band that I've never really listened to before. He talked this record up. You know, unlike Chevelle, I don't have any assumptions or expectations of what to see with this band. And, you know, he said it was a 10 out of 10 experience. And after spinning it, I can see why. You know, this is definitely falls in line with a lot of the stuff that Tyler has suggested before that he's liked. But I also think this is a really good record. I don't know if I like it as much, but I do genuinely like a lot of what this record has going on. You know, while some of the elements, I think, without others, I would like this record a lot less. You know, a lot of the metal styles that this record deals in, without the accompaniment of the horror synth inspiration in its atmosphere and its synthesizer tones and chords, I probably would not like this as much. You know, I think that it's fine outside of that. I think that the drum production on this is really good. While a bit clean, I think given the style of music these guys are playing, it fits really well. And I feel like a lot of the faster songs on this project with the synth work remind me a lot of Fear Factory in a way that you may not have expected from a band with these sonic components in them. You know, I think this record is incredibly well structured. I like the opener, Become the Night's kind of foreboding synth tone. I love Neon Teeth's synth line. And the closer, The Chemist, sort of lingering synthetic atmosphere. You know, they lend to the heavier riff work that these guys toy with incredibly well. Whether it's fast pummeling tracks like Curtains, which bring in that sort of Fear Factory influence that I was talking about, or at least have those sonic comparisons that I'm hearing, or the stomping lurchers like Snakeface and Dead End Dreams. The bass line on Dead End Dreams is actually the best component of the track, to be honest, and I like a lot of what this band has going on. You know, it's very dark, it's very, again, foreboding and sinister in a cool way. You know, not everything works for me. You know, I think that some of the weaker tracks on here, like Sex Trap, the title track is fine, but I feel like its synth tone sticks out a bit more than the rest of the components, and it's cool. I like what's going on with it, but I don't like it as much when married with the styles that the song has going on. And All Hell Is Mine's gargantuan chorus is honestly pretty good. I feel like if you enjoy super heavy, you know, almost groove-centric metalcore adjacent stuff, but you want some horror synth injected in there that really carries a lot of the weight of what I like about this project, give this a listen. It's kind of neat. I honestly think it kind of, like I said, it kind of works in a way that may sound weird on paper, but I think the band wears well. You know, I think they wear it really well. I think that they also have some song topics or some imagery within that suit that as well, like on Werewolf's Hospital, Neon Teeth especially, really horror-inspired it feels like, and I enjoy that. You know, I think that it's really cool. It almost feels like what would happen if, like, Wolfenstein had a remake in the style of like the Doom 2016 remakes, if that makes any sense, you know. But like instead of Wolfenstein being like a Nazi game, it was like horror inspired. It's weird. It's a record that I get. Like I get why he requested it for me, because it feels very much in line with stuff that I've given high praise before. And I fuck with this, dude. I fuck with this a lot, actually. I give it like an 8 out of 10. Like I was teetering on like a 7, 8. I'm feeling like an 8. I think this record's really cool. Thanks for the recommendation, man. This record's pretty cool.
But wait, I don't get to hear it.
St. Vincent is back with a brand new record, Daddy's Home. A record that I immediately was really hyped for when I heard the lead single off of this, and the opener for the record, Pay Your Way in Pain. You all know, I like funk music. I like some good funky styles. And I feel like the production on that song is top notch. It's that vintage sheen. The drum production on this song and across the record is just 10 out of 10 drum production, guys. You guys know, I love me some drums. I'm a drummer. Good drum production kicks ass. And the drum production on this is really good. On top of that, the organ tone and the production of that is super sleek. A lot of the production on this is sleek as hell. Annie's vocals, her harmony work is so woven well into the mix on tracks like Daddy's Home, the transcendental Live in the Dream, which is so good. There's like one of the things that I like about this record is it does fuse these funkier laden tracks like Pay Your Way in Pain, Daddy's Home. Down is funky as hell and I love it, with these much more psychedelic, very Beatles sounding influence, or at least psych adjacent tracks like Live in the Dream, The Melting of the Sun, you know, Candy Darling, you know, these airy, spacious tunes where Annie's harmony work is so very good. And I like that there's also this sort of running theme with these humming songs that kind of split the record really well. I enjoy the more intimate moments like Somebody Like Me and parts of At the Party. I love the groove on Down and Out Downtown. I think the bleed-in from Pay Your Way in Pain into Down and Out Downtown, which has a little more of that psych lean as well, is fantastic. This record is easily one of Annie's best. Like, easily one of her best. You know, St. Vincent's been a discography review I keep throwing out there into the ether. I'm like, you guys want to see this? You guys want to see St. Vincent? And it never wins any of the polls, but I'll just have to do it myself someday, because I love Annie Clark's music. And I think that Daddy's Home sees her expanding her sounds in all the right ways. Her songwriting still gets to shine in a lot of great moments. I love, again, Live in the Dream. Live in the Dream is one of the best songs I've heard of the year. I love that it paints a picture in a really beautiful way. You know, I love the nuanced writing in Daddy's Home, the title track. Same with My Baby Wants a Baby, or At the Holiday Party. At the Holiday Party and Daddy's Home are two very, very well-written songs. And I love that Annie's songwriting is continuing to morph with these sonic experimentations in very gratifying ways. I mean, St. Vincent's artist trajectory sonically was on my decade-end wrap-up list for that particular subject, and it's for a great reason, you know. Annie's 2010s were super different for her, like, from her beginnings, and I love where she's taken her sound. I think she's had an incredible journey, and this is another top-notch release from her, like, up there with, you know, Strange Mercy and Actor as, like, some of her best work. I'm giving this my first 10 out of 10 of 2021. I love Daddy's Home so very much. It is an incredible record that it's got that crown, baby. As of right now, it's easily the best record I've heard this year so far. It's kind of weird that I reviewed Death Grips last month, because around the time I was planning that discography review, I found Undo K from Hot, which is Zach Hill's newest band.
Unduque from Hot being a trio featuring Zach, the singer from Terra Milos, Nick Reinhardt, and the guitarist from The Advantage, Robbie Moncrief.
And I listened to the record G.A.S. Get a Star, their debut, and it's some post-Death Grips music, all right. This record is all right. It's all right. You know, the Death Grips kind of immediate comparison feels apt, especially from second one of Ziploc Quilts, That Kill from Hot, because a lot of the production sounds in the synthetic work are very reminiscent of Death Grips, and it doesn't help that the follow-up 750 Dispel continues that vibe like wholeheartedly. Zach's drumming on that song is Zach's drumming, but it feels, again, maybe it's because of the atmosphere, Death Grips-esque. And Death Grips wasn't the only band I listened to with Zach killing it. I really love Team Sleep. I think the ILYs are great. But, like, again, given the sonic components at play here, it's kind of hard not to make Death Grips comparisons. There's other comparisons that I hear on this thing as well, like Incomplete Spanx and Empty Am. Like, a lot of the tracks on here, Password Incest, feel more in line with other 90s heavy electronic groups. Like, I mean, hell, the production on the vocals on a lot of this record feels like Nitzareb. I could also see some KMFDM influence from some of the vocal production. You know, some of the drum production reminds me a lot of that electro industrial adjacent style. You know, there's a lot of cool sonic components here. Outside of the Death Grips comparisons feeling very apt, I think that if you like Death Grips or you like early 90s sort of electro adjacent industrial, like, I would check this out, you know, to compare it to a different record of the same vein. You know, a lot of the heavier mechanical sounds from the last Greg Puciato record don't sound a thing like this. This still sounds like Zach is channeling this lane. You know, I think Nick Reinhardt does inject a lot of his own style in here as well.
And I felt like components of tracks like the title track and Crosswalk further bridge a gap into its own realm of identity that I think the three of them pull off incredibly well. You know, I feel like Robbie's contributions also feel like it helps give the group its own identity.
You know, I think this record's solid, and I know that it's going to live in the shadow of Death Grips because it's Zach Hill's first band post Death Grips break, whatever the fuck they're doing, you know. And again, it's unfortunate because I feel like these guys actually have something really cool, but I get it. It's just mad unfortunate. I think this is still really, really solid, and as a fan of this style of music, I feel like it does some cool sonic concepts that feel wholly their own. They don't feel as tied to other stuff because it's like a fusion. It's a melting pot of ideas in a way that's different from what I might have expected. And I'm happy about that. You know, I think that it's still a really good record. I think it's a little long in the tooth. Even it's a brief listen, but I feel like while it has ideas going on, some of them go on for too long. Some of the songs don't culminate to quite the resolve I was wanting or hoping for. Like, I feel like the run from Empty Am through Missing Information gets a little monotonous in a way that isn't as enthralling as other components of the record. And, you know, I feel like this could be tighter. They could have done more with some ideas and pulled together a little bit of a better experience. But I still think it's really solid. And I feel like if you like this stuff, you'll like this band. I'm still giving it a 7 out of 10. It's still very solid. Listen, I'm not saying 21 Pilots made a mallcore pop record with a myriad of influences, but they absolutely did that, and I don't like it. I know I liked Trench when it came out. But I've never been like a die-hard 21 Pilots fan. They just haven't wholly been my bag. Like, I think that they're fine, but I never got into the hype of the guys. You know, I like the world building in Trench, and I feel like they were teasing that on Blurry Face at points, but I feel like Trench is where it reached like a nice sort of apex with that. And this new record, Scaled and Icy, it's just rough. It's a rough record. You know, and it's not that some of the influences are wholly used poorly. I think the ELO sheen on Good Day is fine. I dig the Elton John tone on Mulberry Street, and the writing on that song is the least boring to me, personally. But, like, doing what the 1975 were doing with their electronic influence on a track like Choker, I wish was better than it actually is, because I'm one of the people who thinks the electronic stuff, the UK garage stuff on the last 1975 was one of the few good components of that record. I think that the production, though, on a lot of these tracks is just not well utilized. Like, the synth stuff on The Outside and parts of Shy Away kind of feel juxtaposed with the rest of the accompaniment. Saturday sounds like an ad for vitamin water, to steal a bit from Todd in the Shadows. And a majority of this record is just a snore. Man, I thought that this record was, like, the least entertaining pop record I've heard in a while. You know, I feel like a lot of what made Trench interesting is gone, and I more am intrigued with how these guys adorn a multitude of different clothes under the same umbrella style. And none of it works holistically. It just kind of is all right. Is better than it may sound on paper, I guess. I don't know. This record was a rough sit. It wasn't a fun sit, and I didn't like it. The parts where Tyler comes in and raps stick out too, just because they're doing this different style on this project. And so it's a rough project, man. I didn't really like this record, like, for the most part. I'm giving it like a 3 out of 10. I thought it was really not good. But I didn't want to end this month on a shit note, so I went back and I decided to respin a soundtrack that I really love from earlier this year, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Cyber Shadow. You may have seen me live stream it earlier this year. I played it on launch day, through beating it. It took me about a month or so, and I was engaged the entire time. One of my games of the year, one of the best games I played this year. And one of the things I kept bringing up throughout the live stream was the music. And I figured the music was going to be good because it was attached to Yacht Club games, and Shovel Knight's soundtrack is aces. And while Jake Kaufman didn't have his hand in this, it doesn't sound like a Jake Kaufman project at all. Yacht Club is a game company that I would synonymously tie to good music, only for their Shovel Knight stuff. So, the music in this game lives up to the expectation I had already set for it, given it was a Yacht Club title, but I love how it fuses the, like, aggressive electronic stuff that you would expect from the cybernetic landscape with some of the cold isolation that could also be seen from that. You know, a lot of the boss fights on here are incredibly intense, whether it's the density within the Scramblers theme, or the overall leads on the Apparator's theme, or on the final boss as well. There's a lot of intensity in there to match that it's a boss fight. The train fight as well. I remember the music to that being insanely good. But they juxtapose that with some good grooves, some good rhythms. Like Stage 4's theme has just this great rhythm to it, this great groove at its core, with some nice leads that dance over that. You know, also going against the Stage 3 theme, which has these cold, icier synths that feel more like a Metroid soundtrack in a very positive way. This game knows how to integrate its music and thematically use it incredibly well. The lead theme on the title screen music in this game is so good. The lead riff in that is incredible. It's like music euphoria. You know, it was something that I was so happy to hear every time I booted up the game. It was a nice welcoming to the game itself. I remember one of the other moments from the streams that blew my mind musically that was a really good theme as well was the underwater dragon boss. There was this dragon that, like, the ambience in the room bled into the theme itself. Loved that moment. I feel like, as a fan of game soundtracks, I've talked about game soundtracks a lot throughout the channel. You know, I did a review on the Fez soundtrack when that came out. It was also my album of the decade. And I've never been a stranger to talking about soundtracks on the listening log. It's the first time I've done one in a while. And I said in the stream itself, in the live streams itself, when I was doing the credits, that I was going to review the soundtrack on the channel because this soundtrack is so very good. Pentadrange, the artist that made the soundtrack to this game, just did a masterful job. Aces all around. And Cyber Shadow, the game, also incredible. You know, I feel like if you enjoy Ninja Gaiden style, you know, mini collectathons, you know, the levels themselves kind of get expansive and there's secrets within them that you can revisit for the most part. With a nice story, a lot of fun power-ups, and some incredibly memorable boss fights. Play Cyber Shadow. I'm not going to give it like a proper review, or watch my streams I did of it. Linked in the card, you'll see my streams, my VODs on the VOD channel. I highly recommend looking into the game at least. It was made by one guy, and it's incredible. Easily, again, one of the best games I've played this year so far. And the soundtrack, I'm giving a 9 out of 10. It's an incredible soundtrack. It is so very good. Lots of great moments, lots of great themes, lots of great melodies, and some tight grooves at its core as well. And that's going to be my listening along update for May. What did you think of these records? Do you like the records that I covered? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments down below as well. My listening log is linked in the description, along with my socials and Patreon, but I'll get to that stuff in a minute. So if you want to see what's on my listening log, what I have projected, and what I've already covered if you've never watched a listening log update, it's linked in the description. If you did like this video, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general notary content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons as well. If you want to join their ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, like my reformatted discography reviews, the extended cuts of those, and of Rachel's Game Corner. You also get playlists. My playlist for this month is going live tomorrow. It's an electronic playlist. It has stuff like Aphex Twin and Square Pusher in there. It's linked in the description. Thank you again so very much for watching. I'm gonna get out of here. I have been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day.